Well, it's a very good morning from me, and it's a very good morning from him. Welcome to my mortgage live stream. Hope all is well with you. I'm Paul Archer, as you very well know. Let's go on here and let's enjoy a few minutes of mortgage goodness, whatever is your involvement in the mortgage and the financial advising marketplace, because there's getting quite a closeness between a mortgage advisor and a financial advisor now, because things are starting to blur. Over the next few years, you'll see that starting to combine. There's quite a few mortgage advisors I know who are looking to get their financial advisor ticket, almost through exams and various things like that. So it's well worth thinking about, because the more and more clients we talk to, and when we're starting now to look after our clients as opposed to treating it as a transaction, then of course clients have other needs and wants and desires. And of course mortgage advisors, protection advisors are limited in their permissions. But that's for another day, isn't it, to talk about. We've got an interesting live stream for you today. I want to pick up on a case study from CeMAP 3. I'm just going to run through it with you so you can just use this as a bit of CPD, really, to see if you're still able to answer CeMAP 3 case studies. But they have changed them over the last few years. They are much more interesting, much more realistic, and you can actually get a lot more out of each case study. So we're going to take a look at that. What's been going on this week? Well, it's quietening down because it's Christmas. There's only 3 weeks to go, and the weather is atrocious. Down here, it hasn't stopped raining for about a year, I think. Up in the northwest, of course, it's full of snow. So we've had some pretty horrific weather. In fact, I woke up this morning, looked outside, and none of the houses here, we live in a terrace house, in a terrace road in the middle of Cheltenham. And pretty much everybody here works from home. And no car outside people's house had moved this morning. Everybody was working from home. You probably can't blame with the amount of rain that we've had. So a bit quiet, but things will certainly pick up as the new year progresses. So let's use this time to catch up and get some CPD and all those good things. Unless, of course, you've got an awards dinner, because they're all over LinkedIn at the moment, aren't they? You've seen these awards dinners from companies themselves who award themselves. It's actually you can't make that stuff up, can you, really? I'm the best advisor in my company of one person. But anyway, enough of that. Let's head to this case study then. And what I'm going to do is to take you through the case study, a little bit of a reminder for you of techniques and things like that for multiple choice exams, so that you can keep yourself up to speed. And we'll have a chat about some interesting topics actually as well surrounding mortgages. So let's get on to our case study. Now, I've got a slide for you. For those of you who don't have the slides, if you're on podcast, then you can certainly go onto YouTube and take a look at the 4th of December 2023, and you'll see the live video of this one, so you'll be able to watch it and enjoy it using the visuals as well. So let's get over to our first case study then, which is in the name of Garth and Tanya. Each case study seems to have a name, doesn't it? Now what I'm going to do is read through the case study itself and then extract key information I think is important that we need to do so. So let's pop over to our case study then, so we can see what's going on. Here we go. Now remember, in the exam you've got 20 minutes to do one case study if you divide it accordingly. So the first 10 minutes or so you really should be examining and extracting information from this case study. So let's put me in there. Let's get me at the top there so you can see me. In fact, I'll put myself down the bottom so I don't get in the way. So let's take a look at each paragraph for you then. So 5 years ago, Garth and Tanya took out a 70,000 joint repayment mortgage with the Ross on Y Equitable Building Society. At that time, Garth was earning 24 grand and Tanya was earning 6,000. And no mortgage indemnity guarantee policy was required. In other words, there was no high loan charge. Since then, the REBS, or the Ross on Y Equitable Building Society, self-insure the risk. What that means, of course, is they don't bother buying indemnity or high lending charges. They just charge a few percentage more on the interest rate to cover the cost. That's what they do. That's why 95% mortgages, by the way, are more expensive than 60% loan-to-value mortgages, because they're self-insuring themselves as opposed to charging a mortgage indemnity guarantee. So there's not much going on in my head now so far with the case study. What I would do, just to flick onto a different whiteboard for you, is what I would do if I was doing the exam is I'd be starting to make some notes. So over here, for example, I've got Garth here, and Garth earns, well, at the time he earned 24,000. That's a particularly important thing. He sounds as though he's employed as well. And you've got Tanya here as well. Let's put Tanya in, shall we? There you go. There's Tanya. Ta-da. And she earned at the time £6,000. So that's probably part-time, isn't it? Otherwise it would be below the minimum wage, which would be illegal. Now, 6 months ago, Tanya's father, Alan, moved in after his mother's tragic death. Okay, so he's moving in. Let's go back to the case study so you can see it. He's moving in after his mother's tragic death. They now plan to build an extension and are in the process of applying for a further advance of 32,000 from the Ross. Alan's donating £5,000 to the cause. Now that's interesting, isn't it? So you've got a property. So let's draw their property in here because I want to do that because we probably have to illustrate the things. There's a very tall apex there, isn't it, on their property? Now, because Alan is moving in, so let's put Al there, shall we? There's Al. He's the old fella. There you go. Because Alan is moving in, he's obviously a father, it's care, isn't it? All those good things. Then they need to build an extension to fund him, if you like. There's the extension that they're looking to build. And Al is going to live in that extension. Again, I'm just painting a picture of the case study just to get myself comfortable with it. Now, because he's living in the extension, he's going to be part of the deal. Now, it's going to cost money, so they're looking for a further advance on that one, and the further advance is going to be 32,000. So they want to borrow another 32,000 further advance. Alan's putting down some money towards the costs. And remember, they've got a mortgage of 70,000 at the moment. So I'm going to make a note of that. That's the existing mortgage that they've got. So I'm just going to add that up because I can. That gives me 102,000. Again, I'm just preempting some of the questions that you might get. Back to the case study then. Now, last month, Tanya decided to give up work to look after Alan full-time due to his muscle disease, which has now made him totally dependent on Tanya's care. His only income is his Merchant Navy pension of £8,000 per annum. So Al's got a pension. So he's got 8K coming in from a pension, which of course is acceptable from some lenders in the later life lending market, definitely. So he's got a pension of that. He'll also, well, Tanya will be able to claim carer's allowance, which is not a lot of money. And it may well be that Alan can claim some form of incapacity, but then he's retired, so all that goes out the window. He's entitled to state pension, of course. Pensions credit he might be entitled to, which will boost his income. But £8,000, actually, I think, if you divided that by the number of months, I think that's above the pensions credit limit anyway. It's only a couple of £100 a week that they get pensions credit if you're earning below that. So I think that's all the income they're going to get. Anyway, back to the case study. When they first started the mortgage, the house was worth 118,000. Fair enough. However, due to a fall in house prices over this period, it's now worth 110. So that's not particularly good, is it? So back to my case study, I would now put in here the fact that the place is worth 110,000. Now, if we're going to have to work out any high loan charge, high lending charge, mortgage indemnity guarantee policy, we're going to have to work on a value of 110. So when they apply for this further advance, the lender's going to work on a value of 110, not the original purchase price, because that's just a paper figure, isn't it? Final bit on the case study. Garth has just taken out a car lease at £250 a month for 3 years, and he wonders how this will impact on his application. So quite simply, the car lease that he's got, this is Al, who's earning 24. What they're going to do, if we just put in there the car lease is a essential expenditure. It's one that's contracted, so he's not going to be able to have all the mortgage based on his income, his net income. They're going to take off the monthly payments on the car lease, and that comes in at £250 per month. So that they're going to deduct that as an essential expenditure before they work out his net disposable income and work out what he can afford at the interest rate applicable. So quite a few things going on here. Just put a cross through Tanya's income because she doesn't earn that anymore, does she? So Tanya doesn't earn £6,000. She's now giving up work now, so we need to take that off. So the only income we've got for this total mortgage now of 102,000 is going to be Alan's pension. I bet we're going to have to bring that in, and Garth's 24 grand less his car lease. So it's tight, but that's probably where they're going to go with the questions. Now, what have I done? in the last few minutes? Well, I spent 6-7 minutes just dissecting that case study, getting to know it, getting to know the couple, trying to see what kind of questions might be cropping up by looking at situation. I've also taken some paper and I've written down information to help me. Now, you do get a whiteboard in the exam on the computer where you can write this information down if you want to. So what I'm going to do now then is going to go to the first question for you just to see what we think. Let's go to the first question then for you. Number one, a deed of postponement might be necessary when? Now, again, don't look at the answers. What is a deed of postponement? Well, a deed of postponement is where you are going to postpone a first charge if you're going to be postpone the first charge so you can move the second charge upwards. So it's where somebody wants to borrow some more money on a mortgage. So these guys have got the £70,000 mortgage, haven't they, which is their existing loan. So let's put that in there. So they've got 70 grand mortgage to start with. Now they want to borrow 32,000. Now if they had a second charge, this couple, already on their mortgage, then you would need to postpone that second charge in favour of the further advance of 32,000. Because what they want to do, of course, is they want to add £32,000 to this. So let's put that properly in the sort of figures that we've got here. So they've got an existing mortgage of 70. They want to borrow another 32. So they want to borrow a total of 102,000, don't they, this couple? But because there's no existing second charge, we don't need to do any postponing because that's the way it works. Because all further advances, of course, are lent under the first charge. They just increase the first charge. So back to the question then, a deed of postponement might be necessary when? So the answer here is B. The order of priority of charges against a property is to be changed. So that's the answer. But it's not relevant for this case study, but that's where a deed of postponement will be needed. The other answers there are just red herrings, really. Second party added to the mortgage, arrears on the mortgage account are all nonsense, aren't they? So that's a nice question, number one. Question number two is back to the case study now. Garth is considering surrendering his mortgage endowment and switching to a repayment mortgage. What potential advantage can be obtained by using the secondary market as opposed to surrendering his policy? Again, as always, don't look at the answers until you've figured out the answer, the question. What's happened here is that Garth, let's put Garth over here, he's got himself a policy. He's got himself an endowment policy, isn't he? He's got an endowment policy linked to the mortgage. So he's probably got a 70 grand endowment policy. So let's put that in here, which is great. So he can have, again, endowment. He can have an interest-only mortgage. He's got a 70,000 endowment policy. Now, it is a mortgage-linked endowment policy. So, yeah, it's just a straightforward endowment. It's probably with profits, which is fine. Now, can he cash that in? Yes, he can. Of course, he can cash it in. He's only had it for a few years, so there won't be much money in it. But he could sell it on the second-hand market. There is a second-hand market for with profits endowment policies because they're guaranteed things, aren't they? And the marketplace loves a with profit endowment. So he might get a better price for that if he wants to sell it. I did with mine back in 2008. I had 5 years before it matured and I needed some dough quickly because I was doing a further advance. So I put mine onto the marketplace and I got 6 or 7 grand more by selling it. It basically gets sold by auction and somebody buys it. They carry on paying the premiums and they get the bonus at the end of it all. So back to the case study then. What potential advantage can he obtain by using the secondary market? For the answer to this one is C, enhancing the amount received from the policy. Because I figured out the answer before I looked at the options, I already know what the answer is. Again, the other answers are just red herrings, aren't they? Interesting. Okay, next question. Tacking of the further advance. Again, this is another technical term. Now, tacking is the term they use, the colloquial term they use when there's a second charge and you have to tack the further lending on top of the existing first charge. So again, you've got your first charge of 70,000. That's the first mortgage, isn't it? The first charge. Now, if there was a second charge on the property, then you'd have to postpone that and then tack the further advance on top of the first charge. So that's what tacking is. It's just a horrible phrase, isn't it? So back to the case study then. So tacking of the further advance, as you can see, is not appropriate in this case. Because it's not relevant, because there ain't no second charge. That's the whole point behind it. Question number 3. The REBs have changed their policy now and charge for an indemnity guarantee policy where the further advance exceeds the loan to value ratio threshold of 75%. This further advance will. Okay, so we're going to have to do a pretty quick high lending charge calculation. Now, I've done most of the figures anyway, as you can see here. So I've got the new mortgage of 102. I've got the value of the property at 110. Now, they're going to be charging at 75%. So 75% of 110 is 82,500, which slips in about here, doesn't it? 82,500. Let's just put that in there. 82. So in other words, any amount of borrowing above 82,500, they're going to charge a higher lending charge. So that's pretty easy to work out, isn't it? Because they're wanting to borrow 102. The lender charges above 82,500. So the amount of policy that we need to take out is 19,500, which is the gap between those two. That's how that works. Again, we've already done half the figures, so when we go back to the question itself, it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? So the answer to this one, therefore, would be B, exceeds the threshold by £19,500. Again, we've done all the work to that one, haven't we? Number 5, the decision taken by Tanya last month. So back to the case study. What decision did Tanya make last month? Let's put me up there so you can see me. Let's put me up top there. So what decision did Tanya make last month? Well, she decided to give up work and look after Alan full time. And what that means, of course, is that her income goes out the window, and therefore we probably need to take Alan's income into account. And if you look closely at the options, you see there D may require that Alan's income is brought into the equation. The rest of the answers are red herrings because she's given up work and therefore her income isn't taken into account. They probably need Alan's now to secure the mortgage. So they might put him in as a mortgage holder or guarantor or something like that. Okay, next question, number 6. In order for the lender to grant the additional loan, Alan will be required to, and here we've got a few options there. The answer here is A, sign a consent to mortgage form. Because if Alan, if they grant the further advance, they know about Alan now. Alan lives in the property full time, as we know, and because he's may not be party to the mortgage, we don't know if that's going to happen or not. He's somebody over the age of 17 living in the property. They need to sign a consent to mortgage form, which prohibits him from becoming a squatter, if you like, if the property is ever repossessed. So that's A, number 6. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? Number 7. When processing the new loan application, a statutory obligation is placed on Garth and Tanya's lender. Interesting question. So if somebody takes out a mortgage with a building society, what statutory obligation does a building society have? Well, they have different rules, building societies. They have building society acts, which have been issued over the years. They're not a bank, you see. And the only statutory one from the list there, number 7, is C, check the adequacy of the security. In other words, they do have to have the property valued for mortgage purposes. Not surveyed, but they just have to see if it's adequate security for a mortgage. And that's actually statutory under the Building Society Acts. Everything else they do because it's good practice. So confirm income is good practice, isn't it? Ensure building regs are followed correctly is all good practice. So that's number 7. Number 8 for you. With regards to the car lease, what will the building society do? Well, we've already answered this one. That's C, view it as committed expenditure. It's not quality of living or basic essential. It's committed expenditure. In other words, it's essential expenditure that's going to be reduced from his net income before you get net disposable income, because it's contracted. You can't just slip away from the contract. So again, we've answered that one by doing our pre-work. Question number 9. If the further advance fails to be granted, this could result in, again, there's a few entries there which are just red herrings. The answer there is B, Alan acquiring an overriding interest in the property. Again, that's the consent to mortgage form problem, because they can't repossess the property. They can kick Tanya and Garth out, but the building society can't evict Alan unless he's signed a consent to the mortgage form. So he does actually have an overriding interest in the property. Once they know about Alan, they get an overriding interest. If they didn't know about him, he wouldn't have any rights at all, which is an odd one, isn't it? Last question for you. Number 10. Garth and Tanya have looked into obtaining finance from the Pistol Bank PLC on a Pune basis, or Pwisney. They explain in the event of default they have the right to. Now, Pistol Bank, I've no idea who they are, but a Pune mortgage, Pune, it's all very French, isn't it? A Pune mortgage is a mortgage granted on a property without security of the mortgage deeds, or the house deeds, I should say. And any second charge, if it's lent on a property, they don't have the title deeds as security because the first charge lender's got those. So all Pune mortgages are second charges. So this question then, Pistol Bank, they've looked into obtaining finance from Pistol Bank on a Pune basis. It's a second charge mortgage. Now, they haven't said that. You have to guess that from the Pune thing. Now, in the event of default, this is the thing, of course, in the event of default, the Pistol Bank can repossess the property regardless of the REB's mortgage conduct. And that's the thing. You see, if somebody takes out a second charge on a property, their home's at risk in the same way. And both the first charge lender, REBS, and Pistol Bank, the second charge lender, both have the right to repossess the property if their loan isn't repaid. So if somebody decides to keep paying their main mortgage but then defaults on their second charge, the Pistol Bank could take them to court, get possession, even if they've paid the first mortgage perfectly well, which is very careful with second charges because the interest rate's quite high on those things, or can be. And people may not regard that as important as the first mortgage. Now, both lenders have the right to repossess the property in the event of non-paying the mortgage. So to answer that one, then the answer there is B: repossess the property regardless of the REB's mortgage conduct. So there we have a case study, again, just revised for you, and maybe give you a few ideas about how that works and some of the answers that come through. Okay, I've spent about 15 minutes, I think, on that. Done it quite quickly, I suppose. You have 20 minutes to do that, and it gives you the answers there have been described. But don't forget to do this little picture. It's good fun as well to do little pictures. It helps enormously. And when you finish this case study, rub it all out and get rid of from your life forever Garth, Tanya, and good old Al moving in, because you now have to go on to another case study and get to know that case study as well. That's the secret to CeMAP 3. Bye. Alrighty. I hope that was of use to you. Hope you enjoyed that, because it's all part of revising and CPD and all those good things, isn't it? And there's quite a lot of topic areas coming through now on the latest CeMAP 3 case studies, second charges, bridging. They're putting a lot more specialist finance into these case studies, more than ever used to do as well. Okay, let's wrap up. Let's say our farewells. As always, if you want to come onto our database, remember to use this QR code if you're watching the video, or there should be just below me a link to our database, so you can get onto our member list if you want to. We've got a couple of specials coming up. We've got a special over Christmas, which I'm looking forward to. We're putting in some protection material and boot camps and things in there for free. So if you buy a boot camp, you get that for free. In the new year, we're having to put our prices up, I'm afraid, on the boot camp. We've kept the price the same for 5 years now. I think it's 5 years. We've not budged it at all with all the inflation raging, but it's getting to the stage now that we're going to have to top it up a little bit. But what we are doing for a few weeks in January is sending out the CeMAP revision books for free. So we're going to post those to you on our dollar, which I think is great. That's worth quite a few quid, that. So again, we'll let you know the details of the special when we if you're on the member list. If you're not on the member list, you ain't coming in, as they say. And I've got a busy week this week. I'm off on my travels to Birmingham for a couple of days, doing some train the trainer, training some trainers how to train. How cool is that? So I'm on the train quite a bit this week as well, so nipping around. Let's hope the weather and the snow doesn't prevent me. I think there's a train strike on there on Thursday, which could be a problem. I might have to catch the National Express. We get that. It's only 10 minutes walk down the road. National Express coach. Get me into town. That'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? Oh, that will be here next Monday for you on our live stream, as always. And I'm just going to wish you a very wonderful week and enjoy the week for you. And we'll see you next week. Bye.